Alright, so this is my Byrds album ranking video. Not ranking Pre-Flight, even though I reviewed that. I'm going to start and just do the 2 live albums I reviewed and then do the studio albums. I'm just going to count the live half of Untitled as part of Untitled. And this is just my opinion, so don't get like angry when I put Bird Maniacs way too high. You know, this is just kind of like what I feel at the time. I'm not really like going by what I think is like the greatest album. This is just kind of like what I want to pick to listen to. And even then it's kind of not exactly that. I don't know, ranking these albums is really hard for me. I like all of these albums. I don't think that this band made a bad album. But obviously some have to be a little bit less of my favorite than others, so this is just kind of how I feel about that right now. So for the live albums, I would rank the Live at the Fillmore, February 1969, second, and the Live at the Royal Albert Hall, 1971, first. And really, I kind of just like the track listing on this one better, is what that comes down to. They're both good live albums and both worth checking out if you're into the Byrds. Alright, so for the studio albums, this was really difficult choosing between most of these albums. I really probably could have just sat here all night and tried to pick, but I kind of had to force myself to put them in some order eventually. So yeah, I don't really think any of these albums are bad, but I had to start somewhere, and the last choice was kind of easy. So in 12th I have Byrds, their reunion album. And this is just, it's kind of the album in their discography that stands out for like all the wrong reasons. It's a reunion of the original 5, allegedly. But it does, because it doesn't really sound anything like them. There's not a lot of like McGuinn, who has always been the main guy, and there's like none of his 12 strings, so it just doesn't sound anything like them. They may have like not brought their best material to the sessions and like saved it for their solo stuff. So yeah, I don't know, just the whole kind of vibe around this album is a little weird. But I don't think it's a bad album. It's not a horrible album by any means. I think I used to kind of overrate it a little bit because it was the original 5, but I've just kind of come to realize that I listen to this the least of all their albums. I want to listen to it like the least, and I really think of this the least of all their albums. Like, if there's any of their albums that I ever forget exist, it's this one. So not a horrible album. It's definitely got some highlights, but it's nowhere near as good as some of their other stuff. In 11th, I have Dr. Byrds and Mr. Hyde. Now this one has grown on me a lot, and I used to not like probably like half the songs on here. Now I like pretty much the entire album. It's just, I don't know why I had such a hard time getting into this one. Maybe it's just that it's, I don't know, it's kind of samey because it has McGuinn singing every song, but at the same time they're like doing 2 different styles, so it's kind of all over the place. It's just a weird album. I don't think it's bad by any means, but just not, the songs on it I don't like quite as much as I do a lot of the songs on the other ones. In 10th, I have Farther Along. Now this one, a lot of people really don't like this one. It's definitely got some songs on it that are like not the best. If I were saying like song quality wise, I would probably say that all the songs on it, or not all the songs, but like the weaker songs on Dr. Byrds and Mr. Hyde are probably better songs than the weaker songs on here. But I put this above that one just because I honestly enjoy it more. So yeah, I don't know, something about this album, even the songs on it that I don't think are that great, they just entertain me, and I find it an enjoyable listen pretty much all the way through. So next, in 9th, I have a Ballad of Easy Rider. Now this one I kind of thought might be a little bit lower on the ranking, but when I looked at it like track versus track against Farther Along and Dr. Byrds and Mr. Hyde, I was like, I do think I like the stuff on this album a little bit better overall. Yeah, I've always liked this album. Always thought it was a pretty strong one. So next, in 8th, and this is one that's probably going to make some people mad, I have Turn, 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 their second album. And I really like this album. It's got a couple tracks, really just Satisfied Mind, that I'm like not that crazy about. But some of the lesser tracks on this, like stacked up against some of the other albums, I just felt like this one loses out. In 7th, probably another one that's gonna annoy some people, I have Fifth Dimension. This was my first Byrds album, and so it's, you know, obviously special for that. Maybe it's where it is because I've kind of listened to it way too much. Like I kind of don't need to hear most of this album again because I've heard it so many times. But yeah, I don't know, it kind of ended up here just because some of the weaker material, it kind of puts it here. But the standout moments on this album are really great, so I could see people thinking that it should be higher or ranking it higher. And 6th, I have Untitled. This one, I think I ranked a lot lower last time, but recently this album's just really grown on me. Both the live portion and the studio part. I actually like the studio part a lot better though. I think like even if it had just been a standalone album with just the studio stuff, it would have been still probably about this high. So really good album. And 5th, and this is the one that's going to really make people mad, I have Bird Maniacs. And yeah, I know this album's reputation. I know how much like most people hate it. I know even the band doesn't like it because of the orchestration that Melcher added against their will. But I have always really liked it. I mean, other than Tunnel of Love, everything else on here I really like. I mean, even though some of the songs, like When I Grow Up to Be a Politician, are kind of novelty song, I still enjoy it. Citizen Kane, I really like. This album, for me, is like a highlight of their career, even though for most people it's kind of one of the worst. So, 4th, I have Younger Than Yesterday. This one, I know I had higher last time. I can't remember exactly where. There was a long time where this was kind of my favorite album of theirs, and it's just kind of, I don't know, gone down a little bit, kind of looking at the songs and comparing it to some of the other ones. In 3rd, I have Mr. Tambourine Man, the debut album. This is one I listen to a lot still, and just really, I love the whole sound of this album. It was a great way to get like this group going, so another one. Number 2, I have Notorious Byrd Brothers. Now this one, not putting this one at number 1 is kind of hard, but the one that I have at number 1, just like none of the albums can beat it for me, and that is Sweetheart of the Rodeo. And it's not a very Byrds-like album, but I just, I don't know, I love this album. I love every song on it. Like, I don't get tired of listening to it. And I really don't get tired of listening to like most of their albums, but this one's like just a whole nother level. So my number 1 is Sweetheart.